We are here today with Delegate Darryl Barnes of the state of Maryland, who is a member of the House Racing Committee of the Maryland General Assembly, and is also the chairman of the Legislative Black Caucus of the Maryland Legislature. And Delegate Barnes is going to talk to us today about a piece of legislation that he was instrumental in enacting that assures diversity and inclusion in Maryland's emerging sports betting industry. And first of all, Delegate Barnes, thanks very much for spending time with us today.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I think this is a good topic to talk about.
It is. It is. First of all, tell us how this law works.
Well, listen, I think, we looked around what other states were doing. Some would say that Maryland got into the game a little late, but I would say we got in right on time because we were able to look at other states, what they did well, and we were able to look at what other states did not do so well. And we applied those lessons to craft what we believe what we did right. And what we did right was to ensure that we put together a bill that talked about equity and inclusion for our minority businesses to make sure that they had a seat at the table, that they were able to participate in yet another multi-million-dollar industry coming before the state of Maryland. And we look at that comprehensively to make sure that Maryland was one of the leading entities in the discussion on equity and inclusion. And I think we did a good job in doing that.
And how exactly does the law work? How many licenses, for example, are reserved for minority businesses? What are the size parameters?
Right. So right now there are 60 licenses that are available for those traditional brick and mortar licenses. And there are 30 licenses available for your traditional mobile licenses. So we made it a little robust where some of my colleagues wanted no cap at all, but we wanted to make it where those that could participate in this industry would have an opportunity to participate in this industry. And we made it in a way where it was fair and equitable for those that wanted to get into this industry.
Is there a specific number of licenses reserved for minority businesses?
I wouldn't say it's a certain number that's reserved, but I think there is a fair number that would give those throughout the state of Maryland that wanted to participate the opportunity to get into this type of industry without fear of saying that there was a cap and I could not get in. Looking at some other states that did have a cap, we felt that the numbers that we did put on it reflect our diversity within the state of Maryland, which made it fair and equitable for those that wanted to participate.
Now, this is retail. So online is still the preserve of the large corporations.
Sure.
I assume that if I'm a business person in the state of Maryland and qualify under this law, that I somehow have to seek out a partnership with one of those larger licensed companies?
Listen, if you're a small minority-owned company, you're going to have to seek out to partner with a FanDuel or DraftKings or any other large entity. We understand that. You're not going to be able to do that on your own. If you're a MGM or Caesars or Bally's Casino, you're going to have to look out for one of those own, unless you're MGM that has your own app to go out and do your own sports betting. So the beauty of this is that there is an open market in which we are inviting folks to participate. And even if you're a small business and you can create your own sports betting app and you're able to compete with the DraftKings of the world, we welcome that here in the state of Maryland. Unlike some other entities or some other states where they're limiting you, we open it up to the free market, and those that are able to participate, those that are able to have their expertise behind them, those that are able to have the funding necessary and pass the regulations, we welcome that here in the state of Maryland.
Has the application process opened yet?
We just received a copy of the draft regulations. So that draft regulations will be under review for the next 30 days. After that, we will then get a final approval, and then it would open up for the applications to then start coming in, and we would then hopefully start doling out approvals. The goal is to then try to get our first sports betting license, if you will, open up by football season. And if we're able to do that, then, we then scored our first touchdown in the sports betting world here in the state of Maryland.
And if you have two applicants, applicant A and applicant B, how are you going to decide between the two of them?
Well, it depends on the jurisdiction in which they're applying for. So applicant A may be applying in Western Maryland or Southern Maryland, where there is no competition, relatively speaking. And then, applicant B or C may be applying where the geographical area may be a little bit more congested. But I think the SWORT that we have put together will look at all of those things comprehensively and make the best decision. At the end of the day, I know I'm sounding redundant, but we want to spur good competition. We want to make sure who's putting forth a great application, because we want to seek success. At the end of the day, we want these businesses to succeed, and we want to give them every advantage to do that.
Now, I understand that Maryland is becoming something of a role model for the other states, and that some other states are calling you to learn what you've done in Maryland.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we're getting phone calls every day about, how in the world that Maryland passed such a bill that included the type of language that we did, that had such robust language in regards to the equity and inclusion for minority participation. Listen, we passed a bill here in Maryland where we're offering 5% of our funding to go towards small minority-owned and women-owned businesses for support of application assistance, operation, and targeted training. That's unheard of. So we truly want to spur the spirit of growing our small businesses to get into an industry that they may not know anything about, but want to get involved in. And we want to help them as much as we possibly can here in the state of Maryland. So we are definitely doing all that we can. We challenged our large businesses like the football teams, our sports teams here in Maryland, our casinos, and we challenged them to bring on a minority partner when you get your sports betting license. And most of them have already done that. They've already started identifying minority businesses that they could partner with during their venture. So Maryland is leading the way in that, and it is my goal, my hope, that other states will look at this and say, well, damn, we need to change our policy. We need to figure out what we did wrong, and now we need to start having a more robust conversation on equity and inclusion, and we need to now see what we can do for our small businesses in our states. That's the goal.
And one of the things that, as you had said, you were kind of late to the party, but that was good because you got a chance to see what's worked and what hasn't worked. In the states that came before you, in which issues of inclusion and diversity were not considered or were not incorporated into their laws, do you think some of them will come back now and take a fresh look at their existing laws and perhaps amend them to now bring in more diversity?
I think some of those states will, because some of those states have also called me. I think some of those states will also look at their tax rates and figure out, because some of those tax rates were extremely high. And I think, Maryland, put together a flat 15% tax rate structure to make sure that, one, we didn't want to out-tax the market. We wanted to make sure that we were competitive. So we looked at all of those dynamics to make sure that we fell in line and make sure that we were filling in a gap that made Maryland stand out from any other state in the union. That other states would then follow the model that Maryland put together and it would be more robust, and then saying, how do we now change our laws to follow what Maryland has already set forth? And how does Maryland now continue to lead by example in this equity and inclusion for other states to follow? I know that Atlantic City and Las Vegas, the mecca of gambling, is now starting to have more robust conversations on what should they be doing and what should they be doing differently. You got states like Illinois who's saying, what can we do differently in our approach? Virginia, who just got up and running, just did $1 billion in sports betting already. So it's a market that is there, but I think folks now have to stop looking at just how do we make money, but how do we spur economics across the board? And how do we now start having more frank conversations on how do we spread the generational wealth across the table?
When one of your counterparts in another state calls you, what kind of advice do you think they should do you offer to them?
Well, it's as a legislature, you have to learn how to build relationships. You have to learn how to work on both sides of the aisle. And that's pretty much where we are. And fortunate for us, we had a speaker that wanted to really work on equity and inclusion this past session. And that was really our focus, one of the Black Caucus, that we really wanted to focus on equity and inclusion. That was our theme for the year. And that was our mission, and mission accomplished because we hit the goal. And I think, looking at the goals and the objectives that we set forth, we're on target. And I think there's some other things that we have to look at. All of this came about based off of medical cannabis that we awarded a few years ago, and looking at how we did not do that so correctly made us then start looking at how do we start looking at things a little bit differently, and how do we start working more collaboratively with our colleagues and looking at other states and taking those lessons to make sure that we get it right.
Okay, great. We've covered a lot of ground in a short period of time. Any final thoughts that you would like to share?
I think, this is a very interesting topic that a lot of states, a lot of people are very much interested in. I would just say, let's continue to have meaningful dialogue centered around it. I'm sure, there are some things that we may have to tweak down the road, but I believe that Maryland is setting the example and we're moving in the right direction. I'm proud of the work that we've done, and I look for us to continue this, and I look for brighter days down the road.
Delegate Barnes, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you.